Brodes Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. I want to take a look at what Jason Kelce said on his New Heights podcast. I want to touch on what Greg Bedard, who is a part of the Boston Sports Journal up in New England, is saying about the Eagles and how Howie Roseman maybe took the offseason approach with Bill Belichick. Is it possible that they did link up and speak through back channels, which does interest me a tad? And then also A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith spoke. So I grabbed a bunch of their audio cuts, and I want to react accordingly because there's some meat on the bones here. And, you know, when the season ends, as sour as it did, you are going to be looking for answers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that you're crazy or you're overreacting or you're reaching for an answer when it went as bad as it did. That's our job as a fan base, as a city, as a supporter of the team. You're doing everybody a disservice if you're letting Howie Roseman and others just go on ahead without any repercussions. We love stressing in the sports world accountability. Well, damn it, I'm holding the Eagles accountable. I'm holding Nick Sirianni accountable for the disaster that was. And this is the path that I take to do it. So let's start things off with Kelce, who I will say went bending over backwards to support the head coach. Now, I don't know fully how to absorb that because part of me really thinks that Jason Kelce is a stand-up guy, right? I'm not breaking any news here. This guy is phenomenal. And in what universe is he ever, on his own pod, just going to rip into Sirianni for the failures, right? He's not. He loves the guy, just the human being that Nick Sirianni is, just like I think every single person in that locker room liked him from just a stand-up guy level. But man, it was a mess. It was a mess, and there's no way of really maneuvering through that. So how much of this is, I'm going to give you player speak, I'm a professional, and what positives are there? How do you benefit? Whether Jason Kelce hangs up the cleats or not, what would the value be in lighting a fire on Nick when it goes against his personality that we know and understand, considering my man has been here for how long? This dude has adapted to the city like Brian Dawkins has. That's the level Jason Kelce has reached, and I don't know what he would gain from doing anything other than preaching about how great of a coach Nick Sirianni is. But let's take a listen here because I do think he went to an extreme to really show support to the man.
Nick, and I really mean this, is one of the best coaches I've been around and talking about coaching situational ball, really understanding what to do in the right moment, motivating guys. We coach things up in team meetings and hold people accountable better than pretty much any other coach I've been around. And I think he does a lot of things. Players love him. They'll play hard for him. I know it was a really shitty year for us, but I think that Nick has a lot to bring as value as the head coach and the organizational leadership that he provides for the team.
Okay, so let's start picking that thing apart. When it comes to accountability, when it comes to managing the game, when it comes to being prepared for every moment and knowing what to do on the football field when it's crunch time, when you need a big stop, you can't even get the right amount of guys on the field, and then I also see you burning timeouts. How does that actually compare, what Jason Kelce just said, to what we saw on the field? I just don't believe it's true. And, he discusses the situational ball. I can make the argument that I think Nick Sirianni took a massive step back in that area. I wasn't as down on Sirianni with some of those details in previous years. So maybe this is a one-off. Maybe this is more just along the lines of a down season. A wide receiver could be a 1,000-yard guy for 2 straight years, and then maybe a third year pops in and he only gets 768 yards. Well, what happened? They are looking for a bounce back. Then the following season, he's back to 1,000 yards. It's not impossible, and maybe because Kellen Moore is able to really grab the offense, run with it, and Sirianni could take a step back. And the same is applied to Vic Fangio, where the defense will be good. You don't have to worry. You don't need to really study the same way that you did Brian Johnson and that you did Sean Desai, because these two men have been leaders before in these positions, and it's worked out well for them. So you can take a deep breath, allow others to do their job. And when you do that, Nick Sirianni could be more prepared for those moments that I referenced that really bit you in the ass in some big-time games, Like you cannot be burning timeouts because you can't properly get who you need to on the field. That is garbage. That's losing football. And the more and more that happens, you lose trust in the head coach. Because I know for damn sure, if I'm lining up and I see that, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I'm putting my hands up. Both hands are up. You can read my body language on the field that I'm getting pissed off. I'm getting aggravated, because if you're setting yourself up behind the sticks, or if you're burning a timeout, so that means when we're at the end of the first half and it's a 3-point game and now we're looking to put up some numbers and then get the ball back at the start of the second half and really pound them with points, and now all of a sudden you lose the opportunity to, or now you have to rely on a 57-yard field goal. Luckily, we believe in Jake Elliott to bang it home, but not everybody has that luxury. And if you have to rely on a 59-yarder instead of having another timeout in your back pocket and seeing if you can get closer to maybe making it a 47, 48, that is a huge difference. And if you lose out on that, that could be the difference in winning or losing a football game, gaining momentum for a second half or not, especially if you score a touchdown on the opening drive and now you got 10 points in a row to pop up on the scoreboard. I don't get that part of it. And, the team meetings and all that stuff. I watched the games. I'm not saying Jason Kelce's lying. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know if it's as great as what he's portraying, and it sounds as if he's really just putting a lot of stock in Sirianni because he wants Sirianni to thrive. He wants Sirianni to do well. He's rooting for Nick Sirianni to be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles for 10 to 15 years. And listen, I have no problem with that if they are able to turn this around and be great. If they could be an unbelievable football team with sustained success and Jalen Hurts can carry the squad and improve, because Jalen Hurts has to improve too. There's a lot of concerns with me on just the physical sense of Jalen, and I love Jalen, but I do not see the same level of explosiveness. I don't see the same runner that I saw the Super Bowl season, and if that is more than just, hey, he's injured and needed an offseason to really get that knee tested out and to see where his body is at, if this is more of a long-term concern and he just lost whatever that was in that department, well, then that's brutal. Now, I hope to see Kellen Moore try some things that we haven't seen with Jalen Hurts in years past, and I'm curious to see what some of the under center stuff looks like from an offensive perspective. And, just in general, it's going to be a new look and a new dynamic to the offense, so I'm excited for it, and I do believe that he can get more out of Jalen Hurts than we saw last season because it was a mess. Is there a limitation because of where his physical state is currently at? I don't know. All right, let's go to the next cut of Jason Kelce, who continues.
Nick moving to like a head coaching position. He removed himself from play calling duties last year with Shane Steichen, right? Yep. That ended up working out pretty damn good. Nick has shown in his tenure with the Eagles that he's going to do whatever he thinks is in the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's going to make those decisions. And he doesn't care about how other people perceive it. He doesn't care about anything other than what's in the best interest of the team. And to me, I think players respect the hell out of coaches that operate on that level and communicate things like that. And he's a very unselfish guy. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you, brother.
That's my viewpoint on it.
All right, so there's two things there. I do agree with the latter half. I do agree that there is respect in the room when you are willing to sacrifice what you look like to the media, when you take bullets for your guys, when you're able to, take a step back and assess and not be a hard ass that's sticking their feet in the mud going, this is the way I do it, motherfucker, right? I do like the fact that he's willing to adapt, willing to hear, and it does resonate with the guys because if something isn't working, if something is going wrong, it feels like there is the ability to kind of work through this, have dialogue, have conversation. Now, why that didn't apply last season, I don't know. I saw the wide receiver screens. I saw the tight end screens. I saw some of the inability to get DeAndre Swift going. So some of the problems just continued, and there was stubbornness. So maybe it's not as unselfish as we thought. But regardless, let's say it is, right? The Nick Sirianni, the guys like him mode, I think that's right. A.J. Brown even said that during the paparazzi statements in front of his locker, that this man has done some things in the past that we love. What happened in Seattle wasn't a Nick problem. It was a me and Jalen Hurts problem, which then, of course, opened up a whole new can of worms, and that seems to be the common trend with A.J. Brown, as we'll get to what he said on Sports Illustrated. We'll talk about what he said with Kay Adams. We have the audio there as well. Now, maybe I'm nitpicking, though, but the beginning to me implies that Jason Kelce knew that Nick Sirianni was moving back to more of a CEO move because he talks about, he was moving to the head coach role, and we've seen him do that with Shane Steichen. So the way that that's phrased almost tells me that Nick Sirianni entered the day-by-day offensive structure mode again, and now they are peeling it back to what worked the Super Bowl year and now trying to remove him from that. So does that mean he was forcing Brian Johnson to be awful because he was trying to incorporate too much of his stuff, which we saw the year that he gave up the play calling to Shane? That, okay, Nick is not the offensive guy. He's not the strategist, but it almost implied that last season it was a problem that he did step in too much, and that was the debate all year long. What's Brian Johnson? What's Nick Sirianni? Where's Jalen Hurts fall into this? And why are they struggling to marry the three concepts together? It shouldn't be that difficult, and it's obvious that Sirianni's beliefs do not coexist with Brian Johnson's beliefs, and then it clearly created turmoil, and now that's why we're in this situation. But, we were thinking, if it is Brian Johnson and it's that bad, don't you think you have to, as the offensive head coach, step in and say, yo, bro, this ain't working. It's now my time because we got to fix this thing. We can't continue to be garbage. We can't continue to suck. This is getting brutal and disturbing, and if it continues, we're going to lose our jobs. So it's my job to step in and say it's my way or we're all getting canned anyway. So if I'm getting canned as the top dog, I better go down swinging with my own stuff, and his own stuff stinks. That's what sucks here, is his own stuff stinks. But I think it implied that he's taken a step back to the head coach CEO role, which he did before in the past. Yeah, that probably does suit Nick Sirianni better than anything else. But because they constantly take another thing off the Nick Sirianni plate as the years go by, you're getting into the uncharted territory spot where we now have coaches who were reportedly joining Vic Fangio's staff. Nope, I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm chilling. So hold on a second. We got coaches flipping you the double bird, not wanting to come to Philadelphia and be a part of this franchise. Interesting. That's the turn of events. Many factors. roles, what's promised. But I think it's an understanding that there's a bunch of turmoil here. And is your job safe? Now, if you get an upgrade, you get an upgrade, and you have to try and maximize that opportunity. But is it safe to work for the Philadelphia Eagles right now when your head coach is on thin ice and you could be out the door just as fast as Kellen Moore was out the door in Los Angeles because they get rid of Staley. Now Jim Harbaugh is in there, and, you go down that whole path. Well, with the blink of an eye, Nick Sirianni could get popped with the fire symbol. And then now what? Now you're looking for a job again, moving your family, your kids. I'm not saying that's it. I'm just kind of speculating on what type of thoughts happen when you are a coach in the league and you're trying to study what's best for me and all. I'm sure there's a big red flag waving around the Eagles because at a blink of an eye, Nick Sirianni is on thin ice and he can be out of town within an instant. All right, let me tell you about my friends over at HelloFresh before we continue. And if you're unaware of what HelloFresh is, it's farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes that get delivered right to your doorstep. So you get to skip the trip to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Now, listen to this deal they are doing right now. Right now, they say, and when I say they, I'm saying the world says that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and that's very true. That's why HelloFresh agrees, and in fact, they're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy totally free breakfast items with every single HelloFresh delivery. Now, that's worth waking up for. So this is what you do. You go to HelloFresh.com/BrodesFree and use code BrodesFree for breakfast for life. Not $1 towards this breakfast. One breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/BrodesFree with code BrodesFree. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. I love all of you that have reached out to me on social and on Instagram and all that saying, Brodes, HelloFresh is so fucking good. Thank you so much for kind of sprinkling that in my ear. And my wife and I, my girlfriend and I, that is what they're saying. My girlfriend and I, we started to use it, and it's been unbelievable. It's been such a great experience, and I want you to have the opportunity to feel what we're feeling. The Philadelphia sports teams make us sad. I don't know where Joel Embiid is at health-wise. I don't know what this Eagles organization is, but I do know what HelloFresh is, and they're great. And you are missing out if you don't click the link down below in the description right now and join the HelloFresh family. All right. There was another cut from Kelce, but I think we made a nice organic transition to some of the drama with head coaching and all of that nature. So, if you're unfamiliar with Greg Bedard, he does an amazing job up in New England with Boston Sports Radio, Felger and Maz, and that's where this is going to come from, what I'm about to play. And it essentially discusses the potential of an Eagles relationship with Bill Belichick. Let's take a listen. Any day now.
Probably the most interesting thing that I've heard, and again, this is just Senior Bowl rumor mill, is that the Eagles were very interested in Belichick if things didn't work out with Nick Sirianni, and they could be at the front of the line if things again go poorly for him next year. Remember, I told you guys that before the end of the season that teams had already reached out to Bill, back-channeled on Bill. I thought the Falcons were definitely one of them. I'm now pretty convinced that the Eagles were the other one. When things were going south, they thought this might end poorly with Sirianni, and I wouldn't be surprised, given the relationship that Howie and Bill have, that the Eagles were one of those teams to back channel through Bill.
Oh, man, it doesn't stop. The drama doesn't stop. And quite frankly, I love it. Now, I want to give a big shout out to my guy, John Johnson, who does overnight shifts at WIP. I let into him last night. So I was doing 10P to 2A. So he took over afterwards. So on my drive home, 45 minutes, I'm getting home around 3 a.m. I listened to him, and I loved the conversation. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was very entertaining. It made my entire head spin with these theories and these possibilities and the what ifs. And, I just want to give him a shout out. Make sure you tune in to John Johnson as much as possible. He does an amazing job. But I loved it. And as I was listening to callers sort of talk this out and all, man, I love the idea of Bill Belichick. I really do. And I sort of like the fact that they have him on standby. They're back channeling for a reason, okay? They're not just back channeling during last year's back stretch of the season just because. There was legitimate concerns on the head coach, and they would have fired him if Sirianni did not plead guilty. He pleaded guilty, and then he goes, you can do whatever you want. Strip my manhood, all right? I can just put my hands up and I'll hire whoever you want me to hire to make sure my job is safe. So real quick, to apply that back to Jason Kelce with the players respect that he's willing to take bullets and this and that only goes so far. If they understand at some point that Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio hold you by the balls, and I remember hypothetically throwing this out there, if Kellen Moore struggles, is Nick Sirianni allowed to do anything? What type of head coach is that? If Kellen Moore struggles, and I don't anticipate him to struggle so much that Sirianni needs to be the savior, because damn, if that's the case, we are screwed again, and next season's going to blow. But let's just say that does happen. Sirianni can't do anything. And these teammates are going to be looking around at their head coach who doesn't have the nerve to step in when the boat is sinking and his name is tied to it. It's a really odd spot to be in. That's why this whole thing is unprecedented. But I do love the idea of Bill Belichick more and more because, I mean, just talk about a voice that is powerful, a voice that is respected like no other, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the idea of Bill Belichick. I like the idea that they reached out to Bill Belichick. I think that down the road, if Nick Sirianni gets canned next year, you have Bill Belichick as a real option, which does surprise me because of how he's power struggle, and he's so addicted to the power, you'd have to be willing to give a little something up. But I guess they look at his ability to win football games and his record trying to catch the most amount of wins in football. I guess that's where he gives a little leeway, if done. But I do believe that happened, and that shows you that they were really questioning if Nick Sirianni deserved to keep his job or not. And I love it. I mean, I just love it. That's just what it comes down to. And, you know, there were so many funny theories that were being caught in. What if Sirianni heard about it? And if Sirianni hears about it, is he scared and nervous? And does it spook him this year with added pressure? It's the Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts mess. Can Carson Wentz really apply his game and be the best version he can be if he's constantly looking over his shoulder? Now, maybe the Eagles have Kellen Moore in their back pocket as the possible jump-in, right? I doubt it would be Vic Fangio, the old school guy. It would probably be the younger guy. The dude's 35 years old. He's in his mid-30s, Kellen Moore, and he's been calling plays for how many seasons? It's pretty remarkable to think about when he got his jump and his start in the league, and that's why he was looked at as that new shiny object, and then it eventually just sort of evaporated, and now I look at him as a guy with some upside. We'll see. I mean, I am fascinated about some of the scheme stuff, but I find this really funny. I really do. And I love it. I love it. Old school football. Get it back to, remember, if you close your eyes and you think of Tom Brady just handing the football off, and say what you will, Josh McDaniel, this and that, it would be different here. No, Matt Patricia. I was thinking, if Matt Patricia was here, which he was last season, and they hired Bill, does Bill get Matt Patricia back as his DC? Do you run it back with Bill McDaniels as OC and you get Matt Patricia keeping his time here in Philly after the disgusting slop that we saw? I think it's funny conversation. You're kind of hanging around with the boys and someone says something a little off the wall and then you run with it from a sports debate standpoint. That's more or less what I feel that conversation is, but that doesn't mean I can't grab onto it and enjoy the ride, because I think there's reality to it as well. Maybe it's far-fetched, but if Nick Sirianni sucks next year, it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all. And just because the Atlanta Falcons Falcons decided to not look in the direction of Bill, that doesn't mean all of a sudden they're a great ran organization. What is this? Where we're now determining that Bill Belichick can't coach football anymore because the Atlanta Falcons decided to do something else. Stop. Now, speaking about around the league, our guy Denard Wilson is now the Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator. That's a storyline that I'm plugged into. That meme of Howie Roseman with the binoculars and he's looking along the lines here and really trying to study some of these players, whatever it is, if that's not me watching Denard Wilson from a distance to see what they let slip out of their own room, knowing that a lot of guys in that secondary room or DB's room loved him to death, and Darius Slay, your best corner, is really praising his presence and all, and now he's going to Baltimore, hosting an AFC championship game, and I don't think his defense was the problem in the matchup against Kansas City. I think Lamar had some struggles. It's not as if Kansas City Chiefs in that offense was lighting the world on fire. Spags went into his bag and really helped out, and it was fascinating. But Denard Wilson, that tells a story on the current state of the Eagles franchise. All right, lastly here, let's go to A.J. Brown. Because A.J. Brown did a couple different hits, Sports Illustrated, Kay Adams, and he was asked about this controversy with media, about trades, and right off the rip here, forget for a second about, well, the cap hit, this won't make sense. I got you. One, Howie Roseman does things that none of us even know. So I never am able to truly speculate on, you can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. The cap space is in a different level of math that none of us understand. The NFL rule book and how you can manipulate. Look, cap hits are cap hits, this and that. All I'm saying is there seems to be some sort of internal battle between A.J. Brown and somebody. That might be Brian Johnson, that might be Nick Sirianni, or it could be Jalen Hurts. I don't know what it is, but the fact that there's a lot of noise surrounding him, whether it makes sense, doesn't make sense, that's irrelevant. Let's just take a listen on how he handled some of these questions about his status in Philadelphia.
Your name is out there a lot with people talking about, what might be going on behind the scenes, what the organization's plans may be. What do you make of all that? Is that just noise in your mind?
I've been through this before. I'm a vet at this point, So if something happens, my phone will ring and I'll be waiting. If not, then I'll enjoy my time.
But you're prepared, obviously, to be catching passes for the Philadelphia Eagles next season.
I'm prepared to focus on my family at home and get better in the offseason and just see where this thing go. It's chatter.
It's chatter, though. You are prepared, A.J. Brown. You are prepared to catch football for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Long pause. I got to do whatever is right for my family. Think about my family. No problem with thinking about your family. Not at all. But why isn't there a commitment? Look, I'm not saying he's getting traded, I want him gone, this and that. I'm not saying any of that. I just think from a professional athlete level, if I'm on these media tours and I know that this question's coming, I'm not leaving it up in the air. Everything A.J. Brown does is up in the air, and it's always speculation. And while he came out and stated why, only because he did this media tour, he wouldn't have done it otherwise unless I missed something. But regardless, when he strips down his Instagram page and he gets himself off social media and he says it's because there's a lot of toxic things out there, and trust me, there are a lot of toxic things out there, he does realize that taking things off his page and anything accustomed to Philadelphia Eagles football and all that stuff now not being a part of it, no, that adds speculation. And he knows that. He knows that. So by doing it, you are now creating the door being open for us to wonder. And you know what market you're in. You see how we grab onto little stuff and really start asking questions about it, rightfully so, by the way, and you do it anyway. Everything he does. He doesn't answer media questions for a while. He forces his teammates to answer questions for him. Then when he stands in front of the locker, he has a big smile on his face. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I took us to the escape room. There's always something following him. Now, his unbelievable football play and his ability to be a true number one wide receiver is amazing. And I take that if I have to deal with these little stories, okay? Doesn't mean I don't react to the stories. Doesn't mean I won't share my opinion, but I am going to take his ability to be a dominating force on the football field if it comes with him answering a question the way he did in this press conference, this interview. I just think it could be handled better, though. Why can't he just say, yeah, of course, yes, I envision myself a Philadelphia Eagle with Devontae Smith, my guy Jalen Hurts. We're running it back with Sirianni. Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm stoked to get back and sort of prove everybody wrong for how the season ended last year. That's not who we are. We are capable of being significantly better and stronger, and, I take accountability for that as being the leader. I could have handled things differently. As I mentioned with my press conference in the middle of the season, I should have been there for my teammates. I love them for having my back, but yes, I see myself as a Philadelphia Eagle next year. I'm ready to rock. Don't you think that, and maybe I just went overboard, but come on, there's a middle ground here. That's all. Why can't you take that approach? I think it helps out tremendously. You want to talk about bad vibes and people blaming media for this? No media fault. A.J. Brown did that. That's A.J. Brown answering the question. A.J. Brown answered the question. And here's another example.
There's no actual rumblings about a trade. That's all. I want to just make that clear.
I'm not really just worried about any of that right
Okay.
now. So if it is, if it ain't, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that wasn't the answer I was looking for. I thought you were going to say absolutely not.
I think you just got to be prepared. It's a business at the end of the day, So, and I'm just trying to just handle it the best way I can.
I didn't despise that one as much as the other. It is a business. And yes, you do have to be prepared. It is a backstabbing league. The NFL is not a friend to you. And the moment you get paid, that organization is already looking for a cheaper, younger option so they can start pushing you out the door. That's just the nature of it all. So you have to be prepared. But I didn't think it would hurt him if it was a little easier and lighter and you don't have Kay Adams going, what? I didn't expect you to say that. See what I'm saying? Hey, just give us player speak. Give us coach speak. Give us that. Give us just your standard basic answer of yes, because when you don't, we're going, huh? What? And now we're creating an entire podcast off of it. You see what I'm saying? Now this is giving, and which I like that I have content. There's nothing wrong with content, but you know what I love more than content? Let me rephrase that. You know what content is better? For me personally, I know maybe you can debate people who have been in this industry that say nothing's better than turmoil because it creates a split fan base and then there's debates and, the whole thing starts to spark and emotions get high. But I'm just saying the content I prefer is my team just being fucking good and I just get to appreciate greatness all the time. That's what I want. That's the content I want instead of this content. So come on. I want it. I want an A.J. Brown to say the right things about being here and putting on that jersey. I don't like what we got over the last day with him and Devontae. That's just where I'm at. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. Had to get a lot off my chest, and that's what we came up with. I love you guys all to death. I really do appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one.